we have a treat for you now, an original short story written for Halloween by cartoonist Gary Larson, creator of The Far Side. And so here is actor Kelly Connell reading Door to Door Death.
My home is deep in the woods, and as a result, I receive few visitors by either accident or intent. So naturally, I was quite startled that cold, rainy evening when the sound of heavy knocking broke my solitude. A strange chill seemed to fill the room. Reluctantly, I rose from the sofa and walked slowly toward the door. It's probably just someone who's lost, I tried telling myself. But in my heart, I sensed something much more hideous was waiting on my front porch. My palm was sweaty as I grasped the doorknob. It wouldn't budge. Was someone holding the other side? Then it struck me. Counterclockwise, idiot. Always counterclockwise. Turning the knob the other way, the latch fell, and my arm, under some will of its own, pulled the door open. Outside was the silhouette of a small man wearing a hat and holding a briefcase. I couldn't discern his features, but I feared him instinctively. After what seemed an eternity, he spoke, and with the sound of his voice, my anxiety dissipated. Still wary, I smiled politely and let him in. I hope he doesn't stay too long, I remember thinking. I hate it when these guys stay too long. My visitor droned on for what seemed hours. Every time he reached inside his briefcase, I grew more uneasy. No longer listening to his words, I watched his thin lips change from one shape to another, the saliva reflecting back at me from a corner of his small mouth. I grew nauseous, my head pounded, and a sick feeling swelled inside me, a feeling that this was not going to end, ever. Like an episode from The Twilight Zone, I was trapped in that space between dark and light, between reality and imagination, between a fat woman and a fudgesicle, and I was here with a salesman from Amway. He kept urging me to attend some future meeting, luring me with the promise of riches. This was too much. I could bear the agony no longer. The creature would simply have to be destroyed, and eventually I saw my opportunity. He reached one more time for his briefcase, doubtless to pull out another sales chart or product sample, and I made my move. Snatching the stuffed armadillo from the end table, I swung it in a wide arc that caught him squarely on one side of his chunky little head. The blow did not knock him out, although it did make a splendid thunk sound, not unlike something from a Don Martin cartoon. His head lolled on his shoulders like a sprung jack-in-the-box. Thunk! I smacked him again. Don't think I'll be able to make that meeting, I screamed. Funk. Gurgling something about how much money I could have earned in my spare time, he crumpled to the floor. He was dead. The armadillo had killed him. Working quickly, I checked to see if any neighbors were watching, dragged the body outside, and buried him in a shallow grave near the house. For one horrifying moment, I thought I heard him moan, but that was impossible. It was over. Or so I thought. Late the next evening, I relaxed in the living room with a book, the unpleasant business of the previous night far from my thoughts, and then I heard it. That same chill swept through the room. Terrified, I rose from the sofa and walked cautiously toward the front door. Who or what was waiting on my porch? Something told me I knew. My sweaty palm grasped the doorknob and slowly twisted it. The latch fell, and my arm, again under some perverse will of its own, pulled the door open. Outside, to my absolute horror, was the silhouette of a small man wearing a hat and holding a briefcase. A scream froze in my throat, and then he broke the tension. Hello, I'm from Encyclopedia Britannica. Come in, I replied, amazed at what my own imagination almost had me believing. I smiled politely and let him enter, but I was still wary. I hope he doesn't stay too long, I remember thinking. I hate it when these guys stay too long.
Door-to-Door Death was written by Gary Larson with thanks to Peter Reinerson. Kelly Connell read the story.
And for this evening, that's all things considered.